So in the last video, we created our table and we implemented the design of our table by adding this structure, which is the fields for each of the juice records that we're going to record into our table, inside our table. Now, right now, I could start entering data, but I want to make sure that the data is being entered correctly. So I'm going to add some data validation tools inside this database. So we can control how some of the data is entered so that we'll have a good data integrity. I'm going to go back to the design view. So I just click on the design view button and I'm brought right into the design of my table. One of the things I didn't do is I can go over to the description for the ID field. So this is again the field that makes sure that our juice are going to be unique because the field is auto numbered, the database will keep track of that number and will automatically update it every time you add a record. So you never have to add anything inside an auto number field. So I'm going to type into the description here, I'm going to say don't enter a value here because the computer will take care of it. So that's the description I want to have shown on the screen when people have their cursor inside the ID field. Now I have descriptions for the other juice or the other fields, and I'm going to go down to price. Now the price per bottle, I have price per bottle, that's set to be fine. And under taste, I'm going to say that the taste value between 1 and 5 inclusive. So here in the taste field, I want to make sure that people can only enter values between 1 and 5. So if I look at the field properties here, I have what's known as a validation rule. So I'm going to click inside the validation rule, and you see on the right-hand side is that it's an expression that limits the values that can be entered in the field. So I could press F1 for help on validation rules. But what I want you to type into the validation rule field is simply greater than or equal to 1. So that's the greater than sign and the equal sign right beside each other. 1 space and, so the word and, that's a logical operator, and I can say less than or equal to 5. So my taste values can be greater than or equal to 1 and less than or equal to 5. So that way they can enter 1 and they can enter 5 because I've used the equal signs, but they can't enter a taste value of 6 and they can't enter a taste value of 0. Now they could enter 1.5 and 4.9, but let's just hope that they won't type any decimal places. So that's good enough for now. Our instructions will just say that people can't use decimal numbers. And I can press tab and I'm now inside the validation text field. So this is an error message that appears when you enter a value prohibited by the validation rule. Now the text I want to have appear on the screen when somebody accidentally maybe enters a juice value of maybe 8, I'll say, please enter a taste value between 1 and 5. So I've got my error description here, and it should pop up on the screen whenever somebody enters a taste value between, well, something that's not between 1 and 5. So I've set up my data validation, so that's just by using the validation rule and validation text field. So I can now close the juice table. So there's a little X in the top right-hand corner, just not the big red X at the top, just close the juice table here in the middle of the screen. And it's going to say, do you want to save the changes to the juice table? And I'll say yes. And now I'm brought back to my main data screen, my main access screen. So I'm going to double click on the juice table and I'm brought into the datasheet view. So down at the bottom of the screen, I have the status bar, and the status bar now says don't enter a value here. So under the ID field for juice, you see there's a little asterisk, which represents the new record I'm creating. And in brackets, it says new because the computer's going to put a new value there. But since I don't want to type anything here because it would screw up and give some error messages, I'm going to press tab, and I'm now entering the juice name. So at the bottom of the screen, inside the description, you see the description in the status bar. And you can also, another thing I wanted to point out here, underneath the juice table, you can see where it says the word record, and there's some arrows, and it says record 1 of 1, which is the current record, and I can move to the next record and the last record, and there's also the ability to search, but we won't really be needing to search for anything because we're only going to use a small number of data. We're in the juice name, so I'm going to say Amazing Apple will be one name of the juice, and I press tab, and I can enter a price value. Now if I look in the status bar, it's the price per bottle, so I know that I'm not going to enter any price for a 2-4 here. Price per bottle will be $1.25, and I can press tab, and the taste value between 1 and 5, let's say apple is a 4, and I can move into the country field, and that's a country, that juice comes from Canada. So that's a good one. Now there is a column that says add new field, but I don't want to add a new field at the end of this record because the only fields I'm using are the ID, juice name, price, taste, and country. So make sure you fully understand the differences between fields and records and values. So we're going to press the tab, and that automatically brings me to a new record inside the juice table. So in a table, each row is a record and each column is a field. So I press tab because I'm not going to enter anything in the juice in the ID field. So the juice name could be, let's see, I'll just say strawberry. And the price is $1.50. Now the taste value. Now what happens if I try entering a taste value of 9 inside the taste field? Well, I can type the 9 and I press tab and I get a little error message that says, please enter a taste value between 1 and 5. So I click on OK, and now the taste is still there. I have to just press the backspace key to delete the 9. I can put a 5 there because strawberry juice is awesome. And I'm going to move into the next country, and I'll say that comes from the United States. So I've got some juice here, some juice names, and I'm actually going to leave this here for now. I'm going to switch into a different database that I've already added the data to, and we've gone from creating the table by implementing the design of our table using these field names. We've added some data validation, so now people can't enter taste values of anything higher than 5, and we've got different types of juice from different countries. Now also notice that the little pencil icon has appeared here because I'm editing the second record. The juice ID is number 2 for strawberry, number 1 for amazing apple. And there's this extra row at the bottom, and that would be the asterisk if I was to start entering a new value by pressing tab. But let's just say I've done entering the data. I'm going to close this, and it closes the juice table. But if you double click on the juice table in the left-hand menu again, then you'll see that the juice that I entered is automatically there. It didn't ask me to save anything. What happens is as you enter data inside the table, it automatically gets saved. So as soon as you typed something in and press tab, it's been saved to the file on the hard drive automatically. So if you're entering values or typing in data, then you'll never have to save you don't have to save the database or save the table, because that data has been saved automatically, because the database is always open when it's being used. That's one of the benefits of the database. Now, if I was to actually move the width or the column of the juice name, make it a little bit wider, now I can see more of amazing apple. Now, if I try closing it, it's going to say, do you want to save the changes to the layout of the table juice? Now that doesn't have anything to do with the data itself. That's just the layout. That's just making the column a little bit wider. So I'm going to say no. And now I double click on juice, and it appears the juice name column is the same width, and all my juice is still there. So now let's take a look at the other database with all the other data, and we'll talk about queries.